The Potter's House, full history, real story. The Dallas sky was painted in strokes of crimson and gold as the sun sank behind the horizon. On a forgotten corner of the city stood an old building, worn by time, its walls carrying the scars of decades. Once, it had been a refuge for broken souls, drug addicts hiding in shadows, fights breaking out in the alleys, hopelessness carved into every brick. But now, from within those same walls, a different sound rose. Not screams. Not sirens. But prayers. Songs of redemption. Tears of healing. The place had a new name, the Potter's House. The Broken Vessel. In the mid-1990s, a weary man stepped into Dallas with little more than faith burning in his heart. His name was Thomas Dexter Jakes, though the world would come to know him simply as T.D. Jakes. He came from the rugged hills of West Virginia, a world of coal mines and struggle, where poverty and prejudice stalked his family at every turn. He had known hunger. He had known rejection. But he also carried a fire, the belief that God could take the broken pieces of a human life and shape them anew, like a potter molding clay with tender, relentless hands. "I am not here to build an empire," he once said, voice trembling with conviction. "I am here to heal broken vessels. Because I, too, was broken." The first spark. When Jakes first began, he had little more than a rented hall, a few dozen folding chairs, and a microphone that often went dead mid-sermon. The rent was overdue more often than not, but the people came anyway. They came because he spoke not from lofty theology, but from wounds that mirrored their own. He spoke of single mothers abandoned by husbands. Of young men lost to drugs and crime. Of the poor who felt invisible in America's glittering cities. One night, a young man named Michael shuffled into the back row. His mother had begged him to come. Fresh out of prison, tattoos lining his arms, his eyes were hard as stone. He'd grown up with gangs, with sirens, with violence. He expected the preacher to judge him like everyone else had. But Jakes looked straight at him and said, "Son, you are not your crime. You are not your past. You are a story that God has not finished writing yet." And for the first time in years, Michael wept. That night, a seed was planted not just in him, but in the Potter's house itself. Fire spreading. Word spread across Dallas like wildfire. Soon the tiny hall couldn't contain the crowds. People poured in from every corner of the city, black, white, Hispanic, rich, poor. Lawyers sat beside janitors. Teachers prayed beside ex-gang members. The Potter's house was no longer a church. It was a movement. Jakes knew it couldn't stop at sermons. So, the church opened programs to feed families, train the unemployed, and mentor fatherless youth. It became a place where single mothers found support, addicts found freedom, and men and women discovered their worth again. Eventually, the church purchased a massive property, a grand building capable of holding tens of thousands. The name the Potter's House became synonymous with healing across America. But with growth came storms. The shadows rising. Success breeds enemies. Whispers turned into accusations. Some claimed money was being misused, that the church was a business wrapped in scripture. Headlines splashed across newspapers, "Is the Potter's house selling faith?" For weeks, Jakes barely slept. The man who had once clawed his way out of poverty now found himself accused of greed. But he remembered the clay in the Potter's hands, marred, scarred, yet remade. On a Sunday morning, facing thousands of weary eyes, he took the stage and declared, "If this house is built by man, it will fall. But if it is built by God, no storm can bring it down. The congregation erupted, tears mixing with applause. And that storm, like the others before it, passed. The twist no one expected. Michael, the broken young man once lost in prison, became a leader inside the church. He started mentoring young boys from the very streets he once ruled with violence. They called him Brother Mike. But one evening, years later, tragedy struck. His younger brother, still tangled in the grip of gangs, was killed in a drive-by shooting. Michael could have gone back to rage, to revenge. Instead, he stood in the potter's house, weeping before the altar. And Jakes, with tears of his own, told him, "Son, the enemy tried to take your story. But you will finish it stronger, louder, with love." From that night, Michael dedicated his life to reaching the streets that had once nearly claimed him. He built youth centers. He stood at funerals. He broke the cycle his family had been trapped in. The impact. By the turn of the century, the Potter's House was not just a church, it was a beacon. Presidents knew its name. Celebrities visited its pews. But more importantly, broken people found their healing there. A single mother from Mexico, who once cleaned offices at night, saw her son become the first in their family to graduate college because of scholarships from the church. A homeless veteran found a bed, a meal, and, eventually, a job. An addict threw his needles at the altar and walked out free. The final word. The story of the Potter's House is not the story of one man or one building. It is the story of America itself, the pain of brokenness, the struggle against despair, the accusations, the triumphs, the redemption. Like clay in the hands of a potter, lives have been reshaped. And still today, if you walk into that vast sanctuary in Dallas, you can feel it, the weight of countless stories, the echoes of tears, the sound of hope refusing to die. Because the Potter's House is not just a place. It is a promise, that no matter how broken you are, you can be remade.